What area of practice are y'all in? I'm going to try to make this relevant.
Family law.
Family law. Okay. Well, I'm going to gear this towards that. I'm going to also we're going to talk maybe about criminal and personal injury as well, but for family, I grew up here in Baton Rouge in a law firm downtown. My great-grandfather and my grandfather and my dad and my uncle and my cousin all practiced in the same building. I used to be able to go downtown and walk into the door, go down the hallway, and have each one of their offices where they had their secretaries on typewriters. And I watched, during the course of my life, the legal practice change. How workflow is done in a law office has fundamentally, it's not the same anymore. It went from typewriters to suddenly the personal computer was brought in. And then the lawyers began to dabble on it because it had spell check, and lawyers have, since the dawn of time, have not been able to spell or do grammar correctly. And we've always outsourced this task to our secretaries, right? And during the last 10 years, I've watched as law firms went from having a secretary for each lawyer to now a secretary for 3 lawyers. And with the law firms that I work with, there are no secretaries. Either you have a paralegal who's doing paralegal work, or you're typing all your own documents. The implications of this are actually fairly profound in that the lawyer now does the job of 2 different people. And on top of all the work that we already have to do, it is affecting our mental health as a profession. It is affecting our work product. We cannot allocate our free time to studying the law. We're allocating it towards doing menial, repetitive tasks that we have to do over and over and over again. And since the legal market is very compressed, younger lawyers, you guys are blessed in that you get to be in an incubator program, you get to have access to resources, but I deal with a lot of attorneys who don't have that. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about myself so y'all understand about my background and how I ended up in front of you. When I graduated, my family's law firm had gone from being like they were the bond attorneys for the state. They did a lot of work for the state and the city, and then my grandfather began to get older and pass away. And my family didn't believe in advertising. They are a bunch of Atticus Finches. They don't believe in advertising, and they're always going to do what's right. And at the time period, advertising was the wrong thing to do. But you know what happens? The legal market, a lot of lawyers get out there. You've got Morris Bard out there who began to advertise and scoop up all the personal injury cases. My dad, who had his own practice, used to have 15 to 25 personal injury cases at one time. It went from 15 to 25 to 0. And if you handle personal injury, you know that used to define basically the attorney's nice salary that he would make. Because it doesn't take many personal injury cases to do well. So I got out of law school. There was really no excess money to pay me. I had to turn around, look at the law firm and say, you guys are either going to let me take over the marketing, let me take over the internal processes, or I'm going to go do my own thing. We made a deal. They gave me some funds. I turned around, redid all the computer systems, redid the marketing, and now we get about 40 new clients that we have never had before in that referral business, 40 new clients a month, all from just restructuring your practice. But once you get all those new clients, I'll tell you the next problem that I had is I got 40 new clients. And I had to learn the law too. This is not something you roll out of bed and you know all the processes and procedures. And when it comes to doing forms, I mean, look, you're having to cut and paste old forms together that sits somewhere in a file. So I found myself doing this. Staying at the office until 8 and 9 o'clock at night, working all day Saturday or Sunday just to get the work done. I very quickly began to hate practicing law because I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Somebody coming in? Come on in. So after a few years, I looked up and identified the parts of the practice that I hated, and I taught myself how to code when I would go home at night. I'd get home, I'd start to code until about midnight, and I would code all Saturday, all Sunday. I took coding classes. I stumbled and stumbled and stumbled until I figured out that I can create something that will help all of us as a profession. It really was to help me at first. And I was sitting down in Grand Isle with one of my friends, and she turned to me after showing her the product, and she goes, "Oh, this is going to help everybody." And I go, "You know what? You're damn right." So for the last couple of years, I've dedicated basically all my funds that I've made from my cases into this program, hiring attorneys, hiring staff to work for me. And now what I own is a document automation platform that we exist inside of over 100 law firms in Louisiana. We are in 13 different states. I work with solo firms, and I work with firms that have over 200 attorneys. They pull us in, and they tell us, look, we don't want to allocate, $150,000 towards secretaries anymore. And we also don't want the attorneys to do the busy work either. How can we solve this problem? And so what I do and what my company does is, let's say that there's a foreclosure matter in Florida. Let's say that I go down to Florida and this firm has 1 million foreclosure cases, they can't process them. I'll learn all the law. I'll sit down, and have anybody used TurboTax in this room before? We make a program like TurboTax for the attorneys that will help catch those nuanced details, those questions you're going to forget about. We help provide you support there. And so if a certain circumstance comes into play, we'll ask you a question to remind you about it. And so no matter how busy you are, you can hit all the little nuances. So I've been given some variety of talks for the Bar Association and given the insights that I'm learning from going into other solo and small firms, from running both a law practice and a software company, and also seeing how big firms run it well, how small firms run things well. And at this point, after talking to attorneys, I can tell whether you're going to be successful in a business or not, because you can ask 4 or 5 questions, and if the lawyer is thinking, oh, well, my time's valuable, how can I invest and gather more of my time, and how can I invest in resources so that I can double my marketing and spend more time with most important things with your clients. Client satisfaction and client engagement is the most important thing there is here. So I was asked by Amy to talk about legal project management, which we will. It's not a hard concept. Before that, we're going to kind of run through generally why lawyers are bad business people, and kind of give you some perspective so that you can reflect, you can mirror this onto yourself. And I'm not alone here. I screw up all the time when it comes to make a business decision. Either it's going to be successful or not. Okay, so let's start out here. Issues we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the legal market. We're going to talk about what my perception of what practicing the law really is. We're going to talk about case management, legal project management. We're going to talk about employees, technology, and what work are you going to place your value in. All right, starting here though. I sat in a family law CLE. They had the LSU family law CLE last weekend or 2 weekends ago. And they had a mental health professional come in, and they were talking about how unhealthy lawyers are. We all generally know this. I see it a lot. I see a lot of alcoholism. I do see drug use in lawyers that I go and I address them and point them in the right direction. Last week I had a friend of mine who made a mistake on a motion, and it basically brought him to tears for days because it had such a profound effect on this person's life. And it makes me reflect and realize that, and we should all do this, that lawyers are just people, that we are not specifically trained in this to deal with the stresses. And so a lot of this talk is, as you begin to really grow your private practice, your health is paramount. Why are you doing this if you're not going to enjoy it? There's going to be parts of your job you're always going to hate, but you should maintain a healthy lifestyle, and you should be able to structure your practice so that it promotes health. All right, there's my spiel for you in terms of that. All right, let's talk about attorneys as a group. So I'll throw some statistics at you. There's 1.3 million attorneys in the United States. 75% of us are in private practice. Of that 75%, 50% of us have a solo firm. Now, what does this really mean? It means that most of us run a business. And so, if I'm going to hire somebody to work for me, the first question is, well, what experience do you have in running business? Have you worked in a business before? Have you managed one? Or what is your educational background in this? And so I started looking into some of the data. And this data right here, what you're seeing is the degrees that lawyers have when they apply to law school through the LSAC. And so we all had to do this, and LSAC gathers all this data, and they go, let's see who these folks are. I want you to find business degree anywhere in the top 11. It doesn't exist. You have economics, that's theory. It's not applicable, right? So we know this, that less than 2.58% of lawyers have any sort of business background, but most of us, 75% of us, are in a private setting. And of that 75%, 50% of us own our own business. All right, so when I interact with attorneys, the two ways that we learn about how to practice the law are through the firm route or the solo route. And we're going to kind of work through and to analyze the deficiencies in knowledge that each one of these groups have. So if you're going to work for a firm, and look, when I go to work with some of these big firms, that attorney is a cog. They're putting him in a system or her in a system, they're feeding him cases or her cases, and they work them. And so attorney's an employee. Time is spent either learning or applying the law. Work is provided to you. You don't have to go out and market. You don't have to go out there and hustle. That's not what you do. There's little to no contact with the day-to-day billing, operations, business. How did this case even get to me? The attorney doesn't even have to think about that. They're just given the work. So if you have a case management system, it's already set up for you. All the back-end work is just moving along. And so that is the firm attorney. And I deal with big firm attorneys who get out and they start, and really in this state, the one that I'm seeing the most is oil and gas attorneys. I have a lot of oil and gas attorneys who are clients because that industry went down the hill and they had to start up their own firm.
It's literally dried up.
It's totally dried up. And these folks at least look up and they go, and it's attorneys who've been practicing for 30 years, and they go, you know what, need time to change directions, and they look for resources. So at least some of the big firm people, they're looking for help. It's the small ones that are really difficult to deal with. It's the small firm attorneys. Because you get out and you go from an atmosphere in law school where it's, I'm all for me, or I've been dealing with stress for a couple of years, and then suddenly you get out and you've got to both learn how to run a business with no help, and then you've got to learn to practice the law, which is already time-consuming in itself. So you got limited resources, you got limited funds, and the most important thing is the prior generation of attorneys, they were also terrible business people. And so you can't, it's not like even your mentor doesn't really know how to do it well. And so you get bad examples. And so we mimic bad behavior. And then because everybody's behaving bad, we kind of go, well, that's just generally accepted. So I don't like this when I have to deal with, and small attorneys, because they've been fighting for so long, they're just bowed up to new ideas. And because it's your own financing, because it's your own baby and if you make a bad business decision, you suffer from that, they are adverse to risk. They're adverse to change because, and a lot of times, solo attorneys will end up surrounding themselves with useless staff that answer the phone and they're not doing the tasks that build value for your company. And then when you walk into work, you got to go, all right, to pay my staff, I've got to make $350 for them today or $400 for them today before I get paid a penny. And so then, yeah, that attorney has no ability to change course because they are restricted from every angle. All right. Law is a business. I like this picture a lot. I have cases who walk into my door, another attorney will have handled them before, and that client will tell me, look, they'll come with a file, it's this thin, and they'll say, well, my attorney charged me $5,000 for this work, and I'll look at it, and it's just crap work. But I understand that attorney may be struggling, and they're making the devil decision where they're going, I'm going to take advantage of this person. They don't know anything. But at the same time, I feel like I'm always this guy. And if you're always the guy with the angel wings, you're never going to make money. And so you kind of go back and forth between being like, I really need to charge for this. I need to make a living, but I really want to help people. And so law as a business is hard, which is why if you start running it like a business, putting structures in it like a business, you'll have a good expectation for what you need to charge, how long it's take to handle cases, and so on. All right, this is important. The primary task of running a business, we're going to run through these. This is not hard, guys. You're offering a service. I'm a lawyer. I'm going to market that service. I don't know, I'm doing half price. I go out in the community. For lawyers, you don't even undercharge. You go out there and you say, I'm honest. I'm not going to steal from you. I'm going to give you good advice. I mean, really, it is not a difficult market to service because so many of us don't do this well. Clearly, you're going to obtain your customers. Most important thing for lawyers, organize your client information. Data is the center of our profession. And we're going to go more into this later. Provide good customer service. Billing, most of us are terrible at this, and then manage your finances well, and a lot of us don't do that well. But the really important thing that you need to know is practicing the law is not the same as running a business. Practicing the law is a service. It is a service that you provide. So service is offered by an attorney. You're going to generate legal document on occasion. You're going to give advice, which is either it's basically just prevent future conflict for your client. You're open to provide predictability for somebody. And then you're going to help resolve the present conflict if it still exists. All right. When I talk to lawyers, we feel like our work is just so unique. Like nobody can understand, what we go through. But most professional occupations follow the same workflow as us. So if you're a doctor, I'm going to have you in. I'm going to interview you. If you're the lawyer, clearly you're going to sit down and interview your client. Even if you're an engineer, you're going to sit down with whoever your client is, and you're going to say, well, look, what are your objectives? What do you want to achieve here? The doctor's then going to perform tests. The lawyer's going to run some discovery. The engineer's going to go out and perform studies. The doctor's going to provide a diagnosis. The lawyer's going to analyze the facts. The engineer is going to determine what sort of code or what sort of structure we need to do. They're going to put out some preliminary plans. The doctor's going to go non-invasive first. The lawyer should do maybe mediation first. And then the engineer is going to lay out alternative designs. Then finally, for doctor, you're doing surgery. Lawyer, you're doing trial. Engineer, you're doing build. It is the exact same workflow. Now, I want you to remember this because Amy had, again, asked me to talk about legal project management. Notice how these are stages. You can look at each one of these stages and go and plan for each one of your cases how I'm going to handle each one of these. You can standardize it so that when you have a new staff member comes in, they can basically be taught off of a standard protocol book so that you can have a predictable experience for your client every time. I mean, we are a service. We want to provide the same level of service for every client. The only way to do that is to understand that we can break this up and standardize each one of these things. All right. creating a business system that works for law firms. All right. As we move forward, the products that we make come from information, right? Like, we have to open that door for that young woman. Oh, no, you're fine. So, this is important that legal services is a game of gathering, shuffling, and reorganizing information in different formats. So, what does this mean? I got a client who comes into the office. I'm going to gather as much information as I can from them. I'm going to put it on a notepad, most likely. I'm going to take that information on a notepad. I'm going to put it into a pleading. I'm just going to recopy. I'm recopying the same information into a pleading. And then going into the discovery, I'm going to pull applicable discovery based upon the information they told me earlier. I'm going to do a motion that involves the same freaking facts that I took in on the first interview and the information from the discovery, and I'm going to put it into a motion. And then I'm going to take all those written forms, and I'm going to articulate it orally to you in trial. So all we're doing is taking information and reconveying it in a different format. That's what we do as attorneys. What makes us unique is we can apply some law to it. And so information is the materials that we build everything with. And so if you can centralize that information into one spot, that makes you much more efficient. That means that you can build your pleadings and access information. How often do you guys turn around and go into your file and you go, oh, I need a piece of information on a child? Like maybe some educational information. And you're going to sit there and maybe flip. I don't know how you organize your data. You're going to flip through yellow pages for 5 pages. Let's say you're in court and they go, oh, Mr. Benton, where's this minor child in school? And you go, or how old is this kid? And with your client next to you, you're flipping through information to try to find something that's really pertinent, and you may not have it in your notebook. We've all done this. I've had the judges ask me questions earlier on, and I didn't have it in my notebook. It was in some obscure piece of paper that I wrote. I maybe wrote on the back of a pleading somewhere that I had to find that piece of information. So centralization of information is pivotal for you. All right.
So my desk is not the answer.
No.
All my information is certainly centralized. It's all on my desk in one piece.
It's
very simple.
Like I've been there before. I don't
think it's what you're talking about.
No. At this point, that just causes me anxiety to even think about it.
Sorry.
No. So when you go to make a business decision, it should really revolve around, since information is your key to moving fast, it should revolve around efficient information management that reduces cost and improves the service of a product. So if you can access information fast and then utilize that information in an efficient manner, you've now cut your staff because you don't need them, because you now have more time. Or you take your staff and you reallocate them towards marketing. You reallocate them towards preparing you for trial, other things. So, but every decision should revolve around, can we do this faster? Can we do this more efficient? That doesn't affect your legal mind. That doesn't affect the service you're going to provide. Doesn't affect your analysis. It just decreases how much time you're going to spend on a task. So, goals of developing a good system. Again, you want to quickly access basic case information. You're going to organize it in a logical manner. The same you should have in every single case. Your information should be organized the exact same way. That way, you don't have to remember how to organize my notes for this case, how to organize my notes for that case. It should be the same format every single time. Reduce time on tasks that don't build value or move matters forward. There are a lot of things that we do as attorneys that are just repetitive in nature. And we have to do these things like like for family law case, your initial pleading. It's a cut and paste document. It's not, you're not going to win your case on a family law pleading. The judge is never going to look at that pleading and go, Mr. Benton, I don't need an answer. I got this. Your client gets sole custody. I've never had that happen. It happens with ex partes on a temporary basis, but like for a document like a basic family law pleading, it does not build any value for my business. And if I can make that document quicker, that allows me to have free time that then I can utilize for either my business or myself. If I need to take a half day off, I can go take a half day off. If I need to turn around and go do some personal marketing, I can. So there are a lot of tasks that don't build us any value that they hold here, dear and near to our hearts, because we are all the greatest writers on the planet, and everybody wants to see our written word, and they're going to be so compelled that they're just going to give us what we want. But the fact is, guys, we work in a bureaucracy. The judicial system is a branch of the government, and it's a conflict resolution branch. That pleading that I send to the court is nothing more than a request to be heard by somebody who wears a robe. And there are areas of the law that's not the case, like foreclosures. But even there, it's just a ticket to get into the game. And as long as that ticket has certain things on there, has all things you need to request, that's all you need. All right, so elements of a good system. Reduce your dependence on staff. I get hired to go into law firms, and it's not my intention to, so I don't go into law firms to get people fired. And when I work for big firms, they go, you're not gonna get anybody fired, Austin. What we're gonna do is reallocate towards these people they're already trained in this area. They're going to be better support staff for litigation services. They're just not gonna cut and paste all day long. Let me tell you a horrifying story of an attorney, it's a good friend of mine, who was overly dependent on her staff. Family law attorney, been practicing for 35 years. She, along her side this whole time was her paralegal that did all of her documents, did all of her discovery, did client interviews. The attorney showed up, went to court, met with clients on occasion. Well, that secretary, paralegal, turned around in the last 24 months and said, I'm done. I don't like this. I'm not going to do work for you anymore. This attorney, who's got a really heavy practice, had to shut her doors for a month plus. She had to hire 2 other people to replace that one. And then those 2 other people they're not going to be trained in how to do documents because she's not organized on how all of her pleadings have been done. And now she's got more work. So she's now has 2 employees who are not going to do all the work. Now she's overworked, and her whole lifestyle has changed because she was overly dependent on her staff. If you feel like your staff is doing a lot of work and you don't know what they're doing and you can't do it as efficiently, you're in trouble. You're in trouble because they leave. They will hamstring you. All right. Again, outsource your repetitive task. This can be billing. Does everybody here have case management software, CMR software? What are y'all using? Clio.
I have Cosmolex now, but I may switch to Clio.
I'm using Cosmolex as well. I know that they reconcile bank statements. They'll help reconcile your trust account. I haven't used Clio yet, and I've heard other things about my case too. So there's a bunch out there. Do y'all use CMR, Clio?
We do not.
All right, we need to have a conversation. All right, so we're going to go over CMR in a second. Let's see. So you need to, investing in software is going to save you a ton of time. It's not just because I own a software company. I invest in software. I invest in a lot of software. And so, for my software company, I invest in software. For my law firm, I invest in software because it prevents me from having to, A, learn how to do accounting, and B, to hire an accountant, primarily.
Are these indicators to you, like you walk into an office and you see half of these things happening, you know you're doing?
Oh, well, yeah, the moment you say you don't have CMR software, I go, and you're not alone, I go, okay, well, let's say that you need to access some case information. Let's say you have a new attorney who wants to get client information, look at the file, to be able to track all the communications. CMR software allows you to have one space where you can have your calendar for the whole firm. You can have, you can link it to your email so that you can say one client can view all the emails. If you need to do a trust accounting, it is a strong way. You just push a button and it'll do a whole trust account for you. That way, if you ever get audited by the bar. And so CMR software, and older attorneys don't have it. And when I say older, I mean anybody over the age of usually 36, 35. And so they're really not that old, because I'm that age. Let's see. What's that? I don't know. All right. So get online storage. Do we all know what online storage is? We're going to go over it no matter what. Be a paperless office and then streamline your document generation. All right. Staff. It's hard to find them. It's hard to keep them. Losing staff can cause lasting difficulties. We just talked about my friend who had issues, but also I got a friend who works for a big PI firm, and this person is totally dependent on his paralegal pushing cases forward. His paralegal allows him to do a lot of work. If she leaves, he is in trouble. Let's see. So, and then for the most part, if they're not really building your value for your company, they're a drain on you financially. Attorneys sink their retirement into staff. All right. Outsourcing repetitive tasks. Answering phones. I have a client, a lawyer here in this area, who, when he first started working with me, he had 2 staff members. He now has 0 staff members. And I don't take pride in that. But what I take pride in is the fact that he couldn't afford them before. And now he looks up and he expresses that his life is a lot easier because for answering phone calls, he has a virtual assistant. It costs him about $500 a month, and they answer the phones. And to have someone sit in his office, it was about $140 a day, $150 a day. So that service has saved him 3 weeks of pay, more than that, by having the outsourcing the phone calls.
I'm going to ask one more question. If I am usurping your time, let me...
No, this is part of it. If y'all have questions, you ask.
All right, so I'm a virtual assistant. How does it really work? Is it a live human, or is it automated?
Live human.
Okay.
So they'll pick up, and like I know what law firms have them. Like it's clear to me because I call law firms all day long. But if someone doesn't pick up, then if it's a new client, you've missed that client. At least you'll have somebody pick up, and if you just think of it this way, if you will have captured 2 cases all year long by having someone pick up that phone, and those 2 cases pay you $2,500 a piece, you'll have paid for the system, okay? And then if you get 3, you've made money. And also, it allows you to also take a little bit of a mental break. What this guy does is he will let the phone system answer first, and they answer, so-and-so law firm, and in the same way that your secretary would. And it allows him to filter his calls if he needs to, without just letting it go to voicemail. Let me tell you this, most...
Well, explain it further. What does the...
Oh, okay, so...
What do they do with the call?
Okay. So they'll either call you or they'll transcribe a message to you, and they'll email it to you, and it'll hit your phone right away. Or they'll send you a text message, and you'll go, "Oh, I missed a phone call," and you go, "Okay," and you call Dan back, and it'll have a little message there for you.
Now, how do you reconcile that to old guys like the service aspect, the desperate client, or the emotional client, or the client that has the tight relationship with the lawyer?
If for my clients that I really like, I have a Google number. And what's a Google number? Google allows you to have one number per cell phone, I guess, and you can have them call that number, and so it's not your private cell phone, but it will forward to your cell phone, and they can send text messages to you through that. It's a direct access if you want that. But if I want to, I can go onto my cell phone and redirect that phone call back to the office line if I want. And so I can take a break. And so I have to balance my emotions as well.
Sure.
And that's really paramount to longevity in this. My dad's always done this very well. But if you want them to get to you, give them your cell phone. But if it's an emergency, you can't pick it up anyway. At least they get not your voicemail. You get a human.
Right.
And voicemails make people feel desperate. Like when I call and I try to leave a voicemail for an attorney.
Nobody wants it.
Oh, do I think you're going to call it back? Do I think you're going to check your voicemails? People send me text messages nowadays rather than doing voicemails. And like my voicemail on one of my phones says, shoot me a text message if I don't get this. It's faster for me.
Well, voicemail just adds another task.
Yeah, it's sitting here and it's 2 minutes of listening to someone rant. No, just send me a quick text. I can read it faster.
To jump into with the virtual assistants, one of the things that I find really helpful is that there are more and more services that offer bilingual assistance as well.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Right. So I've run into the issue of having Spanish-speaking clients, not having, finding bilingual staff, maintaining bilingual staff is such a huge expense.
Mhm.
Even if you can just sort of have them have a contact person that they can leave a message in Spanish, and then you can prepare yourself with language line or whatever interpretation service you need to get back in touch with them, they can always do that.
The expense savings is obvious. The benefit is just, I see what you're saying immediately, so that's why you instantly gravitate to it.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so I guess, what do you tell your old dudes like me, what is it? Are they losing anything by doing virtual assistants?
No, just, this client that I'm telling you, this lawyer that I'm telling you about, he's been practicing for 35 years. He gives a bunch of CLEs for the bar. He's a good, solid attorney. And a very empathic fella. So you sit down with him and you're like, oh, I like him. He cares a lot about you. And for him, he's turned around in the combination of the virtual assistant, his other staff leaving because we've basically automated and made him more efficient. He now, he doesn't have to take as many cases. And he spends less time on cases, and he can filter, and life balance is important. We only live to be so many years old, and I'd rather not live stressed.
Let me add this about the person.
Sure.
You want to make sure, because there are a lot of personal virtual assistant services, and the first one that I had wasn't specific to legal.
Oh, yeah.
And the issue that you run into is confidentiality, because even though they'll try and shut the clients down, when the clients call you, they're just trying to get their story out.
Right.
So you want one that's kind of versed in legal, that will know how to navigate preventing the client from disclosing some of their confidentiality.
Yeah.
Because clients are just calling, I need to talk to them because.
Oh, yeah, they got to vent, they
Blah,
got to
blah, blah,
unload.
blah.
Yeah.
They got to unload,
Yeah.
and I understand. But I mean, I always view the front line as the unloading,
Oh, yeah.
repository, so to speak, so that the lawyer can be free. Obviously, but.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I want you guys to engage.
All right.
We're going to be here for what? We have another hour. So, all right. Marketing. You can do your own marketing, but I have seen lawyers dump thousands of dollars into Facebook marketing and not get a return because you don't have a marketing background. And I've seen lawyers put out ads that are just offensive, rather than they think that they're being what do you call it? Oh my goodness! Oh, there you go. Oh, is it really stuck?
At the bottom.
You're trying to trap us in
All right. Success.
Something about not knowing you can go out.
Yeah.
Plan to leave.
Yeah.
But then now that you know you're stuck,
You can't get back in.
So there's a little release mechanism right there.
Can I kind of go back to something?
This is top secret info.
Of course,
we
yeah.
talked about before?
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Of course, yeah.
Derail.
No, you're not derailing.
So I think that you said you might use Cognilex or whatever
Yeah.
software for case management. When you're talking about not being repetitive with intaking of information, basics,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of tool do you use? Have you made your own template for
Oh, so I have my own template. And for family, I'm revising it right now because there's grandparent visitation. There's a lot of different elements. I'm going to show you one. I'm going to show you two while we're here. One for family. We're going to generate a document, and we're going to look at criminal too. And the criminal is a really good, solid example. It's what I've been working on for the last basically 6 months, and you can get a good idea of what it looks like to centralize all that information in one spot. And so let's see. Anyway, marketing, outsource it. I had an attorney who came to me and he really wanted to do marketing and he really wanted to outsource it, and then when he saw it was going to cost him $2,500, which I know it sounds like a lot, it's not a lot in marketing. We charge $2,500 to go to court one day. So for someone who's going to bring in money for you, potentially, that's pennies. And so if you hire that person and that person gets you 2 clients, then it pays for itself. It's just hard to invest. It's hard to do that. When I first started, I had to get credit cards, I had to take out lines of credit, and take a risk and invest. And try to balance that risk to say, well, look, how many clients do I need to pay this off, and that money's going to go right back to it. So marketing is important. That attorney decided not to use the service I recommended. He got his secretary. She knows how to build some websites. And so he let the secretary do it, and I've gone on his website, and it looks like crap. So I know the Bar Association is going to love this video. It looks terrible. So anyway, and then outsource your weaknesses. I know we're lawyers. I know we can read a lot. I know we can do a lot of things. But why? Make your life easier. Outsource. So a good example of this would be community property cases. If I've got a community property case, I'm going to find an expert. If there is a decent amount of property, I'm going to find an expert who's going to help organize that information for me. If there's an accounting that needs to be done at all, any accounting work, somebody else, because then I'm on the hook, and I'm not a mathematician. So my mom, beyond my family being lawyers, my mother was the director of a bar association in Baton Rouge, and now she lives in Colorado, and she was the director of a bar association in Arapahoe County in Colorado for about 15 years. In addition to that, she is a certified divorce financial expert. They call her into cases to sort and organize information, all the different financial data. I wish we had this sort of worker in Louisiana, because for $500, she'll sit with your client and organize all the finances, and then she'll give you a report that you can use in court. And I wish we had this, but we don't have it in this state. So if I had that resource, I'd outsource every case to that, because $500, again, is not a lot when it comes to, I know it's a lot for certain clients, but if my client can pay me, $2,500 for a deposit or $5,000 for a deposit, that $500 investment is going to save them time, and it's also going to save me a headache. All right, learn to use technology. I'm not worried about y'all. Does anybody else? So I was sitting yesterday with with one of the ladies at the bar. Very nice. I will not name names, but she spends days just helping attorneys learn how to use the web. And now that I own a tech company, I have tech support, and we spend probably an hour a day teaching people how to use the internet, and then teaching attorneys how to use bold, how to bold something, how to format Word. And if you think about, we spend eons of time working on word processors, and we can't do basic margins, and they're really simple stuff. But I understand that no one's taught the attorneys, but just ask for help. My generation, we go on YouTube for everything. I've learned more on YouTube on how to do the internet than I probably ever learned in college, frankly. So, but here's some tips. Slow down and read the screen. Read the words in the screen. And so I remember I had DOS growing up. I had my first computer when I was like 11, and it was DOS. And back then, if I clicked something, I could break the computer by clicking the wrong button. You are not going to break anything. If you You can reinstall the software pretty easily. Most software can be downloaded. It's not the end of the world. So click around. Read the screen, click the screen, see what drop downs. Most software is organized in the same way. Invest in technology that offers user help videos. If it doesn't offer a user help video, then if you're not good at technology, then don't use that software, unless it's really easy. Hire a tutor. We make enough money. Look, when I got out of law school, so I embrace my own, the aspects of my education that I was never good at. Or not never good at, I didn't pay attention because I was like 12. I got out of law school and I was terrible at knowing proper punctuation and grammar. I mean, not basics, but if you're going to be a lawyer, you want to put out a document and you want to make sure that thing is clean, because I know lawyers go through, clients do this. They'll circle your mistakes on your pleadings. Oh, you know there's a period right there? This is improper use of a semicolon. So when I got out and I started making a document automation company and I knew this was not something that I was good at, I hired a tutor to come at night for 3 months to review every single line that I was putting into my software. And along the way, I learned how to do it fairly well. I'm not flawless, but hire a tutor. And I paid him like 20 bucks an hour. To go to college, it was thousands of dollars more than that. You know, hundreds of dollars an hour to go to college than that. So utilize customer support. These people are here to help you. If you get stuck on something, call. There are some software companies that don't allow that. They don't have good customer service, but utilize it when you can. Utilize YouTube. Learn to use Microsoft Word in the docx format. All right, who's using WordPerfect in here? Nobody. I'm not going to have that conversation.
I didn't know they even still.
Oh my gosh.
Still out there.
And they live by it. My when I first started practicing with my family, everybody's using WordPerfect, but if you send a WordPerfect file to someone who's using Microsoft Word, it won't open. So secretly, I went on all their computers and installed a program that looked like WordPerfect, and when they hit save, it saved it in docx format, and so effectively, they were all using Microsoft Word. But there are attorneys out there who do use WordPerfect, and it's bewildering. All right. I went to the occupational wage survey, and if you're practicing family law, we know what this is for child custody or child support purposes. I looked at the daily cost for secretaries, paralegals, lawyers, and like the best technology suite. If I was to like, not counting, I didn't count the virtual assistant in this, and I need to. But I looked at the per day, month, year, 5-year, 10-year cost. And the best technology suite was only going to cost me $12 a day, opposed to a secretary on the other end, which is $98, a lawyer $230, and a paralegal $120. And look at the yearly cost, and for the most part, for the secretary, I'm really not taking into account taxes for the most part. So, because I know this would add about another $2,000 to $3,000 onto that. But look over the course of 10 years, and lawyers wonder why I don't have any assets, why I haven't retired yet. It's because you threw it all away. Over the course of 10 years, you spent $400,000 on someone answering the phones for you. Oh, can you make a copy for me? Can you answer the phones for me? And I'm not diminishing that person, but when it comes to running a business, those are funds this could be $440,000 you put into marketing. This is $440,000 you could have bought your own building and owned it, and you were done paying rent. And suddenly you have an asset that has equity, so that when you go to want to retire, you can sell this thing and make your money back. All right, CMR software, we're not going to, of course, yeah.
All right, so your technology totals
Yep.
for all 3 columns?
So what this, I think I was incorporating my case. I basically included, so the technology totals did not include a virtual assistant. It includes my case, and then actually this is even cheaper now. It's not even that price anymore. The old price for ALA, which does all your freaking documents. So you get your, and actually if I was to incorporate other things into it, I would probably turn and say, do any of y'all use, what do you call it? DragonSpeak? Y'all familiar with DragonSpeak? Okay, DragonSpeak. I'm going to have to come down and give another tech talk. DragonSpeak is a program that allows you to turn and dictate, and it does it fairly accurately. And so if you need to do letters, so where you can't automate, you can use DragonSpeak to dictate your letters out. The Bar Association president, when she gave her talk yesterday, were y'all here for that? No. So Bar Association president, down in Lafayette, she also has offices down in Mandeville. Her whole office has removed secretaries. No secretaries. They have paralegals, because you can bill paralegals. And she's not alone. I don't want to single her out in this. That's most offices. And there's also offices I work down with in Lake Charles. If they need to do a document, and if they have the automation system, they use that. If they don't, they do DragonSpeak, and DragonSpeak dictates for you. And you still have to enter the punctuation and some of the nuances, but it will get your first draft out, at least for letters and maybe arguments and motions. So that's DragonSpeak, and that's about a $300 investment. But the technology cost looks at my case, which is a case management system, and then looks at our automation system. And we're considered to be expensive. And so in reality, per day, compared to every other options, we're not. All right, we talked about case management systems. Let me check my time here. Case management systems allows you to reduce your staff dependency, increases your organization, and increases your access to information. Remember, access to information is the centerpiece for this, for how you should organize your law firm. All right, case management system features. I know that a lot of you guys have it. But what it will do is going to keep all your client contact information, your billing in one spot, your calendar. You can have different billing systems set up, so you can have like different billing structures set up. Let's see. It will centralize all your emails, centralize all your digital files. So if I want to, I can give my client access to any file that I upload. So if I want them to have access to their file rather than having a physical file, they can just go and log into their portal and go into their portal and pull the scanned documents. And then finally, you can do case notes on those sort of systems. Here are the big players: Clio, MyCase, Rocket Matter, Cosmolex. There are other ones out there as well, but these are the big players. Cosmolex, so here's what my users tell me. Cosmolex, the one advantage that one has that the others don't is it reconciles your trust account. And it's a little bit, Cosmolex is a little bit more expensive per month, but my friends who handle a lot of deposits, they like it because they tried MyCase, and the users who still use MyCase, they complain about the fact it doesn't reconcile. And I know some of the owners of these companies, and some of them care about the needs of attorneys while others don't. I know the Cosmolex wants to hear your feedback, so if you have problems with it, you can actually call them up and talk to them about it.
So I just wanted to maybe share.
Please do, yeah, I would love to hear your perspective.
So I use Cosmolex, and I don't have any complaints. Well, I have one thing that it doesn't do right now, but they're probably working on it, is I have an Android phone, and so there's not, they don't have an app for Android.
Okay.
So that's a big deficit right now for me, but otherwise, like, I really like it. I think, like, user proficiency on my part is probably the limitation that I've experienced, and I haven't been making the time to do their tutorials like on a bigger scale for the reconciliation. Like, I kind of do it myself onesie twosie, okay, but like if I had a much bigger caseload, I would need to like invest the time to like learn it. It's
one of the tough things about investing in software in a system like that is that a lot of times you're like, well, I don't have the volume for it yet. But you need to and I go over this with myself too, trust me. And I'm this way with my billing system for my software company. There's so many features, and I'm like, I'm not ready to learn them yet. But I know that once you are worked, you're really not going to want to learn them. But if you do have some issues with one software or another, most of these software companies offer 30-day trials. Jump into them, try them out, and sometimes if you talk to them, they can usually extend it to like up to 90 days. Push them. They want your business. They definitely do. Online document storage. Do you guys know what Dropbox is? Dropbox?
We used it when materials.
Come on. All right.
Print it out.
Perfect. So we all know what Dropbox is. I went into a law firm down in Lafayette recently, and it's one lawyer in this law firm, and they use a server. And they're not running anything off their server other than files. And I've been in that law firm twice when they had tech support. They pay somebody to come in to do tech support for the server, and they're paying the guy, I don't know, $200 a visit, $300 a visit, and I just want to shake everybody in the law firm and go, Dropbox is like $20 a month or $10 a month for almost unlimited storage for what a law firm needs. So y'all know what online storage is. Can add a file to your computer that will sync to the cloud and then sync to all your devices. This is not sufficient for backing your files up. If you're putting all your files on Dropbox, you need to have these two other things. I haven't included them in this talk. Attached to your computer, you need to have a hard disk backup. So go and buy an external hard drive and back up your files onto this hard disk. You also need to invest in another online backup program. There's a whole bunch of these. Backup Blaze is one for Mac. Carbonite is one for PCs. And what it does, it will make an image of your computer every day. And so it'll go through and say, it'll look at your computers and it'll make a full copy and put it in the cloud inside of their stored area. Because here's your risk about using Dropbox. If for some reason their servers go down, their servers get hacked, they lose your files, you have no other backup. And I keep a hard copy every day. I back it up to 3 spaces. And for me, I keep another backup inside of a container that is immune from the sun rays, basically. So like the particles from the sun, if we get what's it called when the sun, yeah. So I keep one in a bag because I've got 6 years worth of work that I can't get it back. And so but the sun can actually hit a portion of the planet and destroy all the electronics in that area. Yeah, so, but if that happens, it's the apocalypse. We don't have smartphones anymore, and we're eating each other within 72 days once the food runs out. So, all right. Sure.
Okay. I have an external hard drive, and I have Dropbox, and I have my case management software, and I have not yet. I don't understand how to simply back up everything to sync everything.
What are you using for what sort of computer system? PC? You know, a lot of these new hard drives that they have out there have backup software on them. And you know, if you're a Mac person, Mac has its own system. It's called Time Machine. You go into it, and it's just going to back up every single day a copy of your computer. I can go back and look at every version of a file that I've had for about 2 years. And so, invest in that. Let's see. Be a paperless office. We're having this discussion. You know, there's a point where you're not alone.
This slide just makes chills come across my body. So you are not alone.
My dad, I had to fight with him to turn and make us a paperless office. The moment, all right, 6 months later, he turned and he goes, "This is so easy. I scan everything." On his desk, there's a scanner that you can plop a whole series, like 50 pages, it'll scan it, and it will make it readable PDF, so I can search it. I can search that PDF for things that I want. A readable PDF. When I am in court, and in fact, I can take that document and then make it to a Word document, and so if someone sends me some discovery, I can scan it. If I like their discovery, I can take it, cut it, paste it, and utilize it. Being paperless, remember, practicing the law, if you want to do it efficiently, it's about centralizing your information. If it's sitting in a file somewhere that you got to flip through, that is utilizing a lot of your executory processes of your brain to try to find that information. You're having to use a lot of brain power to go, where is this, where is this, where is this? And you have to break whatever you were doing before, right? You had a task you needed to achieve. You have to go into a file to find that information. So going paperless will make your life a lot easier. You can usually buy these scanners. A lot of times they're wireless. They will just shoot it to your computer.
What's the approximate cost of a decent desktop?
So, you know, you're looking anywhere between, it depends whether you want a printer, scanner, fax. And so are you using, let me ask you this question, and you may or may not know the answer. Are you using a LaserJet or an inkjet?
The short answer is it all goes to a big copier scanner printer.
Okay, is it like a big stand-up one? Oh, get rid of that. That's a waste of your, well, I don't know, you may be doing a lot of documents, so you may, I would,
Just using it.
oh, see, and what you could do is each lawyer could have on their desk a scanner that could, I think it's going to range between $150, actually I've seen them for about $80 some places on the internet, between $80 and maybe $250 one, a really fast one. And so it is an investment, but if you turn around, you'll make the money back in your time. And those things work for a long time. Like if I wanted to, I could go into any of my clients' files right now and into the digital files and pull up any pleading that they have in a case. My dad will call me on occasion because he's not very good at using his smartphone, and he'll ask me to pull up a pleading. It takes me 2 minutes to go through and find exactly what we're looking for. When you make that jump, you have to sit down as an office and say, begin to manage this like a project and go, how are we going to, as an office, organize our digital files? And it must be the same every single time. That way, when you get a new attorney that steps in the door, it doesn't take them long to train. So my cell phone has a scanner on it. And in fact, the new Apple software, I think has a built-in scanner. I can scan documents and send them. When I'm in court, I don't like paper. I just scan the document, give it to my client, and say, look, I'm not keeping a certified copy.
Like taking a picture.
Oh, absolutely. Like if I wanted to, I could scan this in a PDF and email it to you in probably under a minute. And, or have it sync to my Dropbox so it goes in my client's file. And it's a game changer in terms of organization. And so, and
Let me stop you there.
Sure.
All right, I can conceive some of this.
Yep.
But so let's just say that I can realistically apply 30-40% of what you just said.
Mhm.
That's going to make a big difference.
Let's say this. When I go to court,
Yeah.
so there's an attorney in this town, Louis Kazinza, and Louis is from New Orleans, got a New Orleans accent, he's a family law attorney, and he has his iPad. If he needs to go into his client's file, he doesn't carry around, he doesn't roll his briefcase, he has his iPad, he can pull it up. I have donated computers to the courthouse down here, so if attorneys need to go down and print up something off of their files, they can. If they need to create documents downtown, they can. And so you don't need all the paper. If you want to get a nice big iPad so you can review the documents in a nice big format, you can. I'll even, like I waste paper when it comes to going to court. I'll print up what I need and just print that up the day of. And I may give it to my client, or I may shred it, because I may only need it for that court date, only that court date. And as long as my client has a copy of all that information, I don't need it. And it's all in a digital copy that they can access. Let's see how we're doing. 30 minutes, all right. How to become a paperless office. Buy a printer, scanner, Buy a scanning app on your phone, learn to use both, and use them. You have to commit to it.
That's the problem.
Well, the thing is, it's
I'm okay, except for the first 4 steps.
it takes 6 weeks. It takes 6 weeks to break a bad habit.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. 6 weeks to break a bad habit,
Break one.
or to start a new one. And so this is like when you have a kid. The kid's keeping you up for the first 6 weeks. You are insane, and then you begin to settle into it. I've watched my employee go through. He's got triplets, and whenever they go through some sort of change, I see him be insane for 6 weeks, and then he settles into it. And I see the same thing with my clients. When they're going through these difficult time periods, I go, look, I know it's really hard. Sharing custody and not seeing your kid every day is a difficult thing. So what we're going to do is, if you're going to have a difficult moment, I want you to take some deep breaths and not to call that person, not to email, not to text, and just know that this is temporary, and that this feeling is temporary. In 6 weeks, we're going to have another conversation. But I want you to go 6 weeks. In that 6 week period, if you need some resources, here's a book. Read this for 6 weeks.
Get it out.
But what you'll find is you'll start using the system, and you'll be kicking yourself every time you don't scan it. Eventually, because you'll go in, you'll go like, oh, I rely on this. You'll find half your files in there, and you're going to go, I'm an idiot. I can't do this because of me, not because of the system. You're letting the system beat you. Because all it is instead of going to your file, you just put it in a machine and go scan, and it scans it right to it. It requires discipline. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's bypass that. All right, we got 30 minutes left. Let's talk about document production and the cost, both in terms of your time and in terms of your finances. 60% of your time is spent on office, inside the office is spent on documents, and 45% of your labor cost. Some of these documents are repetitive in nature. 56% of them are cut and paste, which means that only 44% of your time is actually creating unique content. And creating unique content, looking at a case and writing something unique to that case, only for that case, and that's a taxing process, right? You got to do a unique motion. You got to sit down, have quiet. You got to reflect on the facts, and you got to put all your effort into that. What I hate with a passion is looking up and going, cutting and pasting old documents together based upon prior filings. It is a waste of my time. And those letters that you send to your client and send to, or those memos, those build value. Because your client gets those and they go, oh, they wrote me a letter and they summarize this information. Whether they read it or not, you can point to it whenever they complain to you. And when it comes to memos to the judge, if you have a judge that reads those things, and I know some judges may lapse in that because they've got a high caseload, they can turn, and it will make a big difference to have your written word in front of them. All right, cost of generating documents. Lawyer, if you hire a lawyer, God, a lawyer's expensive. And then you got to train them on where all the files are organized, and what cases have what pleadings in there. Retention is difficult, and once they're trained, they go, oh, I want some more money. And you go, well, I just trained you on this, build me value, and I'll pay you some more money, bring some business in. They don't want to do the work either. Nobody wants to do repetitive work. And so then you go, well, look, paralegal. I give talks to paralegal classes. There are really bright ones in there, and then I got about a 40% who sit in the back row, and I wouldn't hire them ever. And so good luck finding a good one. They're still expensive. And then customer service. When I call law firms, and you better make sure if you have a secretary that answers your phone, I'll call law firms, and from the moment they say hello, I'm so turned off by the personality of the person answering the phone that it makes me angry. I become more aggressive because the person answering the phone has got zero customer service. You call Dudley DeBosier. I want you to do this. Call Dudley DeBosier's office today just to hear how nice they are when they answer the phone. And you'll go, oh, that is what it sounds like to have good customer service. And so let's see. And then you're going to become dependent on these folks. And if they decide they don't want to be with you, then you suddenly lost a good teammate. And then you can do it all. Absolutely you can do it all. You're just going to sacrifice all your free time. You're not going to be able to work on your marketing. You're going to be overworked and stressed, and then you can't edit your own work. Look, if I spend 2 hours on a document, I promise you I can't edit that thing. I've got to come back the next day. All right. Most documents, how are they created? Cut and paste. This is ridiculous. Let's all go through this process because we all know how it's done. I got a client comes in the office, they tell me what facts, then what they're looking for, and I go, okay, you've got a custody case, and you've got a use of matrimonial domicile, and I go, oh, and make it unique. Post-separation family violence relief act, and you go, shit, I only get like 3 of these a year. And so you got to think back to what client did I have that case for? And you go over and you open up a file and you scroll through and you click on it and you copy it and you bring it over and you paste it. And then you go down to the body and you scroll down, you go down to the prayer and you go down to the nisi and you go down to the order, and then that's one provision inside of it. And then once you're done, you got to go through line by line and go, I'm going to change Wilma Flintstone to Fred. I'm going to change Parish of Jackson to Baton Rouge. And if you make one mistake, guarantee your client's going to go, who's Tom? And you go, I just spent 2 hours cutting and pasting this thing. And it helps, it actually diminishes our value, unfortunately, because when I talk to paralegals, I ask them, I go, okay, who in here has gone through a divorce? And you'll have like 7 or 8 to raise their hands. And I'll go, has your attorney ever generated a document that had the wrong client's name on it? And most of them continue to raise their hands. And I go, well, how'd that make you feel about your attorney? And they go, I lost a little faith in them. I feel like I wasn't getting what I paid for. This is, they can't even edit the work. How can I expect them to do a good job? And know that your client is going to judge you on a few different things, because we know that you know the law. We know that you're a good attorney. But your client's going to judge you on, did they call me back? Did they sit with me and listen? Did they do a document that reflects what I'm looking for? Because once you go to court, we all know what really happens most of the times. We're going to go in the back and we're going to be good negotiators. If we have a good attorney on the other side who knows the law, then we're going to work with them. And if that attorney's good, they're going to lean on their client to go do what the law is going to provide. And then we're going to do a stipulated judgment, either before or after talking to the judge, who's going to hopefully give us some good guidance on this. The percentage of cases that go to trial are just nuanced. And so your client is judging you based upon one of the aspects is the documents. And unfortunately did you leave a client's name in there? And I know I've done this before. I've had maybe the wrong caption number. I'll have cut and paste 4 captions and I forgot maybe on one. And not that it affects the case, but I'll catch it, and you know what? The clerk will catch it, and the clerk's going to point it out to me, and then I'm going to be embarrassed because the clerk caught that. So, all right. The benefits to cutting and pasting is it's my own language. Who cares if it's your own language? I want you to think about a normal pleading, right? The structure of what's in there. There's always an introduction, jurisdiction, venue, who's the defendant, and then you're going to have the same legal request over and over again, either in the body, the prayer, the order, the nisi. There's only about 6 paragraphs, depending on how much you want to write, about just that client, just the circumstances of abuse, or to either justify custody or support. It's a very small part of that document is actually the story. The rest is a dang checklist that we can just go through. It's an important checklist, and it's an extensive one, and it's easy to mess those up because sometimes you may copy something in the nisi and forget to put it in the order, or so on. All right. We don't have a lot of time. I do want to show you how this all works in a second. Problems with find and replace. Doesn't catch everything. You rely on your support staff because now they know what files have what pleadings in it, and they know your system better than you do. Relies on too much memory. I can't tell you how many times I've lost a document because I can't remember where it was, what file it was in. The more documents you add, at this point, I think we've got thousands of files in our firm, for family law in our firm, and I can't find things anymore. And I'll tell you what, once you can outsource, this information, having to remember what files or what clients have what pleadings in it, it is a relief. It is so nice not to have to, y'all don't understand it. You're in the throes of it. I've been out of this, I've been out of that realm now for a couple of years, and I won't go back to it because I have to commit so much bandwidth to just trying to remember where things are located. Forget to add new pleadings. That's a pain. So I've copied and pasted and I forgot to add something. Maybe I'm going to leave something irrelevant in. That happens in contractual cases. Inconsistent work product. Look, if you're going to build a brand, you better produce something good every single time. And then misplaced value. We've talked about the fact that this is not going to win your case. Most pleadings will not win your case. They are there to get you before the judge and get your matter heard. Further problems, competition out there is, everybody's legal market is being compressed. Both from more lawyers and from low-cost, out-of-the-state companies, right? LegalZoom, things like that. Loss of intellectual capital. Every time you build something, you write a pleading, I want you to think of it as a spell, right? We're a bunch of wizards. When I go to the court and I go habeas corpus and they let somebody out, I feel like I've just graduated from Hogwarts. And so if I create this nice pleading provision and I lose it, I've lost a widget. I've lost something that I've built. And so it's easy to lose those provisions inside of some disorganized file somewhere.